What has happened to that? Is William Ruto working for that objective? Is he working for the objectives set out in the final resolution of the 1945 Manchester Conference of the Fifth Pan-African Congress? Puppet, clear Western puppet. And that's the problem. Today, William Ruto looks us in the face and says that, oh, the people's voice is important and that we have to listen to the people because it's the mandate of the people that we presidents exercise as well. When did he come to that realization? After killing more than 20 Kenyans killed down.
Ghana outspoken journalist Mr. Kwasi Pratt has launched a scattering 442 attack on Kenyan President William Ruto. I want us to watch this video. I will be back.
How leaders like William Ruto were inflicted upon the African people. Look at the standard of leadership. When we're engaged in a struggle for national liberation, Modibo Keita, Sekou Toure, Kwame Nkrumah, America Cabral, Jomo Kenyatta, and so on. Now look at the type of leaders we have. Rubbish. How did we inflict these kinds of leaders on us? And look, you cannot miss the irony. Here is William Ruto sending Kenyan police people to Haiti to maintain law and order, to restore a certain level of stability at the instigation of the United States of America. Look at his own country. How can this irony be lost on us? And I'm hearing all kinds of comments and so on. What happened? When he went to see Joe Biden, after the discussions and so on, Kenya was designated as a non-NATO ally of the US. What does that mean? New colony, complete new colony of the United States of America. At a time when the African people, east, south, west, central, and so on, are struggling against the establishment of US military bases across the continent, are struggling to enhance national sovereignty and so on, William Ruto goes to the US and agrees that his country is a non-NATO ally of the US. Unbelievable. Look, in 1963, when African leaders met in Addis Ababa, they sought to craft a united Africa, common currency, common foreign policy, common defense policy, and so on. What has happened to that? Is William Ruto working for that objective? Is he working for the objectives set out in the final resolution of the 1945 Manchester Conference of the Fifth Pan-African Congress? Puppet, clear Western puppet. And that's the problem. Today, William Ruto looks us in the face and says that, oh, the people's voice is important and that we have to listen to the people because it's the mandate of the people that we presidents exercise as well. When did he come to that realization? After killing more than 20 Kenyans killed down. More than 100 Kenyans have been injured, some have lost their limbs and so on. Somebody must pay for those crimes. Those crimes committed against the Kenyan people. We've gone beyond the issue of the finance bill. Under whose orders did 20 Kenyans die? Under whose orders did more than 100 people suffer various degrees of injuries and so on? That's where we are today. And I'm so happy that the Kenyan people have decided that the demonstration continues unabated. And today, they are massing up in the streets, ready to demand full accountability from their government. Now, Kwame, look, our leaders, one of our problems is that our leaders have stopped thinking completely. They don't think anymore. These measures which William Ruto was introducing, are impositions from the International Monetary Fund. They went to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. They tax your people, tax the bread, and so on, so that you can generate resources to pay so-called foreign creditors. That is the crux of the problem. Meanwhile, look around Africa. Take Ghana. We have gone to the IMF 17 times. Every time we go to the IMF and we implement the measures they prescribe for us, our situation gets worse. To the extent that today in Ghana, I mean, the madness is so obvious. Our leaders are celebrating debt forgiveness, partial debt forgiveness. That's what they are celebrating. Our leaders are celebrating inflation at about 30%. Our leaders are celebrating what they call the haircut. People who put their pension money and so on in the banks, in treasury bills and so on, are having to lose large portions of their money. That's what our leaders are celebrating. Incredible. I can't believe it. And what is happening there is not substantially different from what is happening in Ghana. It's not substantially different from what is happening in Nigeria. It's not substantially different from what is happening all over Africa. What happened to us? He's talking about putting teachers in classrooms and so on. Meanwhile, he was vice president under Uhuru Kenyatta. For how many years? What happened to teachers in classrooms and so on? Now you turn around after killing 20 innocent people whose only crime is that they stood up for their rights and so on. They're telling us about the need to put teachers in classrooms and so on. When did he realize that? Unbelievable. You understand? Completely unbelievable. Look, the problem with Kenya, the problem with Ghana, and the problem with all other African countries is that the path, the economic path we have embarked on, can only lead to total disaster. Neoliberalism is not going to liberate us from poverty. Neoliberalism is not going to free resources for industrialization. This neoliberal craze can only push us deeper and deeper into the hole. And that is what African leaders ought to realize. And if they don't realize, we the citizens have a responsibility to kick them out of office and to bring into office new leaders who are properly focused on achieving the objectives of the national liberation movements, which were very clear. And the objectives of the national liberation movement were clear. One, the rights of the African people to elect their own leaders and to choose their path. The ownership of African resources by Africans, and the exploitation of African resources for the benefit of the African people. And finally, the unification of Africa under the banner of scientific socialism. These were the objectives of the independence movement. And we need to go back to the basics, you know. Otherwise, we'll be beating about the bush. Now look around Africa. The patriotic African revolution has started. It is boiling in Mali, it is boiling in Burkina Faso, and it is boiling in Niger. And it is clear that this wind of change will continue to blow throughout the African continent until the African people realize their dreams, their aspirations, and so on. Is it any wonder that leaders like Ruto and Nana Akufo-Addo and others are ganging up against the patriotic revolution which is emerging in Africa? Leaders like Tinubu and so on are talking about mobilizing troops to go and topple the leadership of the patriotic revolutions and so on. And I wonder what gives them the nerve to even begin to think like that. I mean, ECOWAS sent a delegation of heads of states to Mali. You saw what happened to them. They booed them. They saw the hundreds of thousands of people who poured into the street in support of the patriotic revolutions and so on. And the other thing which I keep hearing, which makes me crazy, is that, it is always better to have civilians in power than to have soldiers in power. Who told them that? Who told them that? Check the record. Check the Ghanaian record. As a matter of fact, if you take the Nkrumah government, which was completely outstanding. We did so much, established 400 industries as well. Which government comes close to Nkrumah? It's a Champon government. Operation Feed Yourself and Industries. You know, the effort to expand electricity supply and so on. Look at the record of the Champon government. And then, as if us or soldiers, they are not human beings. Soldiers are citizens like all other Ghanaian citizens. They have a right to participate in the decision-making process. Okay? They, like all other citizens, have to contribute to make sure that this economy grows. They, like all other citizens, have to ensure that our access to social services like education, health, and so on is guaranteed, and so on. You understand? So don't let us talk as if us for soldiers, they are not human beings or they are not citizens and so on. They are. Perhaps what we ought to be talking about is that their participation should be guided by democratic principles and so on. But they are human beings like all of us, and they are entitled to participate in the processes and so on. I look, you know, around, and I get really shocked. Look, what the Kenyans are protesting against includes e-levy, doesn't it? Look at how we handled e-levy in Ghana. Don't you feel ashamed? It is not about the fact that we didn't take to the streets. That's not the issue. The useless matters which occurred in Parliament to no effect. Look at Parliament. Look at Parliament. You have a situation where majority of the majority comes to the conclusion that the finance minister is underperforming and he has to go home. All of the minority comes to the conclusion that the finance minister is not performing, he has to go home. And yet when there's a vote, the finance minister wins. What a joke. Oh, what do these politicians take us for? How is that possible when the majority of the majority has come to the conclusion that the finance minister is no good, he has to go home. And all of the minority has come to the conclusion that the finance minister should go home. And yet when they vote, the finance minister wins. What kind of circus is that? You know, so Kwame, I hope that we learn the important lessons from what is happening in Kenya. And there's one more thing. I've been listening to commentary on the Western media and also locally. And they all tell you that, oh, this is a youthful affair. It's the youth. Who told them that? Who conducted that census? Who conducted that census? How did they determine that this thing is inspired by the youth and it's the youth who are leading it? It's the whole united Kenyan people who are engaged in a struggle to improve their destiny. You understand? As if, as of this is youthful people, you know, some even go to the extent of saying that they have no experience and so on. And Ruto himself had the nerves to come and tell us that, as for the violence and so on, it's not by the demonstrators, for criminal infiltrators. Who are those criminal infiltrators? I should stop wasting our time with such useless analysis which has no basis at all. Why? If you take the population, the segmentation of the population of Kenya, more than 70% of the Kenyan people are young people. So if there's a manifestation in which young people appear to dominate, that's a reflection of the demographics of Kenya. You understand? Clear reflection of the demographics of Kenya. And we should stop peddling those stories. The people of Kenya are rejecting the neoliberal approach to national development. The people of Kenya are saying to themselves and the world that these IMF measures would not resolve the fundamental problems that confront them. You understand? And what are the IMF measures? 1982. We went to the IMF and the World Bank. What did they tell us? We should privatize state enterprises. We should devalue the national currency. We should redeploy labor, which simply means sack workers. You understand? Redeploy labor and so on. We implemented all those measures. Where did it take us? By 2000, money supply had gone up by 50%. Inflation was moving around 49% and so on, in spite of all these measures. Now, guess what? The country representative of the IMF and the World Bank, when President Kufuor was coming into office, quickly wrote a letter to him telling him about how the economy had been destroyed and so on. And Kufuor bought it. Eventually, they pushed him to HIPIC. What happened with HIPIC and so on. Then, interestingly, by 2009, when Atamils was coming into office, the same people who were running the economy under Kufuor, IMF and World Bank, wrote to Atamils telling him about how the Kufuor administration had destroyed the economy. We should stop listening to these jokers. The economists in the IMF and the World Bank, are they better than the economists we have in the University of Ghana? In the University of Professional Studies and so on? Are they better? We have people here, academics, economics, lawyers, and so on, who are better trained, better understand our situation than those jokers in the IMF and the World Bank. And it's about time that we began to listen to our own people. Indeed, it is clear from real practice that those professors in the universities and so on, they don't know about the Ghanaian economy. They don't know more about the Ghanaian economy better than the cocoa farmers in the villages. What do they do to write their thesis and so on? They go to the cocoa farmers and collect information. What they have, which perhaps the cocoa farmers do not have, is to put that information in a certain order. Certain order, which meets the needs of academia and so on. They don't have anything more than the cocoa farmer. Why? Do they know the effect of petroleum price increases better than the taxi driver and the trotro driver? They should stop wasting our time. The time has come for the masses in Africa to take over their countries. The time has come for the mass of Africa to spearhead the patriotic revolution which is taking place in Africa. And Kenya is just one of the few. Kenya is just about to fall. You know, neo-colonialism is just about to fall in Kenya. And many African countries should be ready because the tide is blowing through the continent and the world. And there's no force we can stop this tide which is blowing across the world.
I think I don't even have to add anything to this particular video because Mr. Kwasi Pratt has said everything that is in my mind. I've said it several times here that the political systems we are practicing in Africa is being manipulated to favor a certain country. Because look at how he explains the tricks IMF is playing on African leaders. They will tell you, they will tell your predecessor, they will tell you about your predecessor that your economy has been destroyed. And when you are also going out of power, they will tell the incoming leader that the same thing they told you about your predecessor. That is the tricks they have been playing on African leaders all this time. We have been manipulated. Initially, Mr. Kwasi Pratt asked, he don't understand how leaders like William Ruto has been able to impose himself on Africans. And the answer is simple. The answer is now. The systems we are practicing in Africa allows fraudsters, thieves, scammers to be able to become leaders in the nations like Kenya, Ghana, because as it stands now, the rich man is the one who is giving the offer to rule the country. Because democracy is in the markets for the highest bidder. The systems we are practicing allow only rich people to be able to contest for presidency. The amount they sell they sell presidential forms. The campaign, the money they use for campaigns, where does all this money come from? All this money are being sponsored by Western corporate companies that will rush into your country exactly when you win power to claim their investments. And if I say to claim their investments, is they come for your resources, because nothing is free. There is no free lunch. Whenever you take money from these Western corporate companies, corporate organizations, they will come for your resources, because that is the deals they normally go with you before they give you money for your campaigns. We are not going anywhere with this kind of political systems. I mean the democratic system. We are not going anywhere with these systems. These systems were built to suffocate us. It were built so that we can be controlled. It were built so that only people that can be controlled become our leaders. It were built to put puppets in power. That is the only answer I have for Mr. Kwasi Pratt. So till we stand up and reject the political systems we are practicing, we will be here 20 years from now to do the same complaint about what we are doing today. Please join my Telegram platform by going to my description box. Click on the Telegram link. It will take you to my platform. Join us for us to discuss about the way forward of Africa and Africans in diaspora. If today is also your first time, then please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification button so that anytime I upload any great content, you will be notified. I'm always your guy, De-Graft Amoako. Thanks for watching.